Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wind Down Friday. Today, our special guest is Gayn Erickson, CEO of Aehr Test Systems. Hi, Gayn. Welcome aboard. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So, as you know, we will talk more about you. I have prepared a couple of questions. So let's start. So let's
Okay.
start talking about you, about your career. So tell us more about you. What was your first job in the industry?
Okay. Well, while I was in university as an electrical engineer, I actually worked for the United States Air Force Flight Test Center as one of my co-op jobs. And as I came out of university, I immediately worked for HP as a test and measurement sales engineer, which was selling test and measurement solutions to a broad range of customers, but including companies like the two largest semiconductors in the world at the time, which was Motorola, which was number one back then. People don't even remember that,
Mm,
and Intel number two. It's a very technical consulting selling process, and I've always been a very hands-on test guy.
Good. So, given your experience in large corporations, so you mentioned some companies. I can add Agilent Technologies. So, what do you find to be so maybe the key differences or the key elements in leadership and strategies between these type of organizations that you noticed?
Okay. Yeah. So my career spanned in HP. HP spun out the test and measurement business into Agilent. Agilent actually spun out the semi ATE side, the automated test side, into Verigy. And then Verigy, we were acquired by Advantest in 2011.
Okay.
Um, Many people didn't know this, but I've shared this publicly that we were actually looking to buy Aehr Test at the time. And when Advantest acquired us, I actually ended up going and deciding to go over to Aehr Test to run this business. And so kind of have a thread all the way through my whole career through that. My management style really stems, and I'm pretty proud of it, from being the HP way, if people know what that is, which is a focus on management by walking around and management by objectives. I've always had a feel for kind of what every person and department is doing in my division, or in this case, the company, by basically touching base with the key people working on things. I've always been very product, market, and customer focused in the way I've done my business. I think is basically if you get the right products and value proposition and work with the key leaders in the right markets, the good markets, good things happen. As you manage a larger team in a bigger company, you spend more time on process development and metrics, I think, than as in the smaller divisions or companies. But I've also been just always very close to customer relationships, what markets we target, and what products we make for those customers. So in many cases, it's similar, just maybe spent more time on process development as the teams get much larger.
Great. So again, you are CEO of Aehr Test Systems. So let's talk about your current. We on powerelectronicsnews.com we posted the latest news. So in recent months, Aehr Test Systems has achieved so good milestone in artificial intelligence, in both artificial intelligence and automotive semiconductor testing markets. So
Mm-hmm.
how this success in securing order for your systems across these different market, AI, GAN, in this case, would highlight the company's role in addressing this evolving market, evolving demands of these two markets, two transformative markets. So, what have been the biggest challenges in this regard in scaling? Wafer test level and burn-in solutions for that is important technologies like GaN and AI processors.
Okay. So Air's focus has been on addressing reliability and test needs of semi. Okay. So if you kind of just look at the major trends that are going on in semiconductors that we pay attention to, I mean, semis are growing, from the $500-600 billion a few years ago to over $1 trillion by the end of the decade. So imagine our entire careers of, say, 40, 50 years in semi, um, that business is going to double within, 5, 6, 7 years. So there's a big growth. One thing that people may not be realizing is semiconductors themselves inherently are not getting more reliable. You would kind of, that may not seem intuitive, but there's several things going on with the advent of compound semiconductors, by contrast to pure silicon, optical devices, these very, very small geometries that you see from the TSMCs and Global Foundries and Intels and Samsungs of the world. They're actually, think of just smaller line widths that have issues. So people are seeing that they have more reliability and test requirements to actually weed out bad devices before they go into critical applications. Kind of the third thing we focus on is that more and more semiconductors are going into applications where security, confidence, reliability are critical. And we used to talk about the amount of semiconductors that were going in automotive, and now it's just obvious that it's a dominant thing driving that space. And I have a Tesla, and I do full self-driving most days, and so guess what? It really matters, these things. And there's more and more semiconductors where reliability matters, but there's fewer there's more challenges with reliability testing. So that's in general good for us in the test and reliability burn-in market. Another trend that's really affecting us is that with the end of Moore's law, you've got, in order to get more semiconductor stuff or content out, you can't just do that with shrinks. People are having to do that by putting multiple devices into one package, either for power requirements, such as silicon carbide for inverters, or for multi-chip chiplet applications like these AI processors.
Yeah.
That creates all kinds of new test and burn-in challenges, which both drive things to wafer level, where you'd want to burn them in before you put them in to these big packages with many devices on it. So if one of the devices fails, you don't kill all the other ones. Or for just the challenges with the packaging itself, which is driving us actually as well on our package part burn-in business related to those AI packages. You think that power semiconductors like silicon carbide and GaN versus AI processors are very different, but they share some of the same issues that basically we address. Reliability, value of the wafer level burning, and dealing with high power are critical things that are common between them. And then for us, it's turnkey solutions, because we're doing things in silicon carbide and gallium nitride in AI processors that literally have never been done before. No one's ever figured out the trick to do that. And in order to do it, we've actually had to have all the pieces of it. How we contact the wafer, how we adapt to the wafer into our contactor, a test system that's actually capable of testing all the devices on the wafer at these high voltages or very high currents. And so we have to do that also at a low cost point, because the burn-in times are measured in hours, not seconds. And so you can't be adding, high amounts of cost. I mean, typical cost budgets for semiconductor guys is still, if you're spending more than 2, 3, 4, 5% of your revenue on tests, that's just on a, that's a big problem. And so we're always achieving to hit our cost of test objectives to be, 1 or 2% maybe of the device application. And we have to do that with massive parallelism and integration.
Yeah, I guess so. The same situation talking about automotive and electric vehicles. You mentioned inverter, silicon carbide, gallium nitride. So do you see um, particular challenges currently facing the automotive and the electric vehicle industry? So how you are moving with silicon carbide, with GaN in terms of testing and reliability to stay competitive?
Yeah, so I mean, the key, the key thing with the silicon carbide has been, first of all, just addressing the very high power requirements. The burn-in conditions that we implemented at wafer level had never been done before, and we're doing both the gate oxide stress testing, but we're doing the drain stress testing as well. Very different challenges. Gate oxide stress testing, applying a higher voltage, but typically 30, maybe 50% more than the normal VGS specification. So you might a VGS spec of 18 might draw, let's say, a 27-volt gate or so. Stress is kind of the sweet spot. But we do that, and then we need to identify and verify that every single device is burnt in properly, because the failure rate of these devices during the life of an EV is greater than 1% if you do not do this stress test. So if you accidentally just miss a device and you don't realize you didn't burn it in, there's a 1% chance it'll fail, and the failure is a hard short. It'll completely disintegrate the inverter. Okay, so it's a real problem not to, if you there's any chance you don't test it. So one of the big claim to fames for us has been that we can prove to customers with 100% certainty that every device was burnt in properly, and if it is not, we will fail it independent of, there's scenarios by which we think we didn't test it, or we don't know it was tested properly, like one in a few 100,000 parts or something like that. We'll fail that part even though it may have actually been tested, but we never pass a part that could have been not tested properly. So that's just one of the critical things that's going on. And the silicon carbide has a certain set of challenges. Gallium nitride is super interesting. The test challenges that we've had to overcome over the different substrates and things like that are not intuitive. But we're addressing those needs, and we've gained traction with both silicon carbide customers across the board and across the entire world. And then also recently, we've been telling people we've been working with the gallium nitride customers, but one of the biggest customers just committed to us to move to volume production, which is a big milestone for us as well for GaN. And it's to applications such as automotive, but also other things like data center and solar applications where it's super critical for reliability.
Great, thank you. So indeed, data center, automotive, these are the main applications. So let's do a break for a bit. So as the philosophy of Wind Down Friday, let's talk about you. You are CEO. Finding free time, it's a challenge probably. So what are your hobbies?
So I actually love to golf. I don't get
Nice.
to do it as much as I'd like, but maybe once or twice a month or so if I'm doing pretty well. I live near a golf course, so it's not that hard to get to, but I find myself busy, as you might guess. I love to read about the industry, technology, world events. I try and keep myself up to speed and all that. It's if you ask anybody, my friends or my family or my wife, I'm in the right business. I love tests. I just do to a core. I'm always thinking about it, markets and products and test strategies and working with the team. And so I found the perfect job for me, because what I love to do is what I do for a living. So it doesn't feel like work. But if I'm sitting around sometimes and I've got some free time with a cup of coffee, you will find me doodling and sketching out different things that oftentimes have to do with work. But it's been fun. And then we have such a great team. They can take some of those ideas, and they're not all coming from me, of course. And we've been able to really do some things that are amazing. I'm also really close with my family and my kids. My kids are just out of university, and they are adulting now. So my wife and I spend a lot of time with them and spend as much time as we can with them and our friends.
Nice. Good. So again, during our journey, of course, we have good moment, we have challenging, we have not good moment. So during your career, what has been the most challenging moment of your leadership journey, and how did you overcome it, of course? And also, what has been the most rewarding part of your role as CEO?
I mean, I would say the hardest times in my career have been the industry downturns. I mean, semis are cyclical, and anyone who tells you they aren't hasn't been working here. And then whenever someone says, "Oh, it's different this time," you should be shorting the market, because it isn't different. It is cyclical, but it's an exciting time, and it always comes back. 1997, 2007 and 8, that was a doozy. I mean, What we did is, you focus on the mission. You make sure that the team maintains a level of faith. You kind of have to manage your way through those. Those have been some of the biggest challenges, but having survived and lived through several of them now, I think I understand how to go about doing it. And, one of my favorite phrases, an old Chinese phrase, is "This too shall pass," is always useful to remind yourself. What was the second question?
So, what has been the most rewarding part of your
Oh,
role, like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
as a CEO?
Yeah, I mean, I would say building a team for scale. I mean, that was one of the big things with Aehr Test. It was a very small company with a pretty small breadth of penetration in
Yeah.
markets. I'd say success in defining and building some really amazing new products for entirely new market segments in semi-test between, silicon photonics, facial recognition for 2D, 3D senses in phones that are now obvious now, AI processors, silicon carbide, full wafer level burn across 18 wafers at a time in one system, and silicon carbide, and there's more coming up. So I think that's a great thing. The other one, honestly, is my relationship with our shareholders. I
Mhm.
think we're publicly traded. We have a very good relationship with a broad set of institutional and private investors that I think we've been able to maintain their faith and confidence in us, and we're good stewards of their money. And so I think that's good.
Good, good. So thank you again. So we are in conclusion of this wonderful conversation. The final question, the big one is how do you see the future? So what other emerging trends in the semiconductor industry excites you the most?
Yeah,
And how, of course, Aehr Test Systems is preparing to address this one?
yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I think it's really bright for semiconductor and semi-test. I mean, for those of us like you that have been working a long time, it wasn't that long ago that there just wasn't the buzz and people understood. We understood how critically important it was to kind of everything in our lives. But I think through COVID, through all the craziness, and we're still getting through probably one of the worst downturns ever in semi, people understand the value of it. And so, it will come back. I think between power, semis, I think semiconductor in general, I think test and burn-in is all in a really good place. You talked about sort of trends. I mean,
Mm.
the the beyond Moore's law. What we talked about with multi-chip modules. A lot of stuff
Yeah.
going on there. Reliability requirements are things that are going to keep us hopping. Um, one of the things is about 75% of all the wafers in the world have devices on them that need burn-in.
Mm.
People don't understand that. I mean, so there's where and I don't see that getting, like, I guess, worse or better depending on what you look at. That's going to continue on with power semiconductors, optical, AI processors, et cetera, and memories. It's a really exciting time for the industry and an exciting time for us.
Great. Thank you again. Thanks a lot for your time. Thank you for joining me at the Wind Down Friday. I wish you a great weekend and see you next. Stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good talking with you.